An impeachment hearing underway today, floor debate on whether or not to impeach the DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. My next guest made a forceful case for that very thing today. Congressman Pat Fallon represents Texas's 4th Congressional District. He's a member of the House Oversight Committee, and he joins us now. Congressman, great to have you back. Thank you, sir.
Vance, how are you doing? Great to see you.
I'm doing great. Give us a sense of what the floor debate is about today specifically.
Honestly, again, I'll be very candid with you. The Democrats seem to be saying, and I heard about 11 of them speak while I was on the floor waiting to have my turn. It was about these extremist MAGA Republicans. They're so racist and awful people. Oh, and oh my God, it's horrible. I mean, come on, it's a broken record, Vince. We're talking about the most unsecure border in our history. We simply want to secure it. We're rooting for the 3.8 million people that are waiting in their home countries, waiting to come to the country legally, waiting in line, respecting the laws and the rules of the countries that they want to become a part of. And these Democrats forget those folks and say, no, if you just want to come. It doesn't matter if we know who you are. Just come in. I'm sure you'll be a good little boy or girl. And by the way, it's going to cost us $155 billion a year. Never mind the added dangers that some of these folks present. And it doesn't even need to be a high percentage. It could be 1%. And it would still be something devastating in the country, et cetera, et al.
Mm-hmm. So will there be a vote, an actual vote today on impeaching Alejandro Mayorkas?
Yes. Yeah, we will be voting in about, I would say, somewhere, maybe as soon as an hour from now.
Okay.
This debate wraps. And I'll tell you something else, Vince. Your listeners and you are going to hear this first. It's going to be an airtight vote. And I'm always hopefully optimistic, but I don't know if it's going to make it or not. It's going to be that tight. It's going to literally be within single digit 1 or 2, 3 votes.
Because you're losing a couple of Republicans who are, for some reason, supporting Alejandro Mayorkas staying in the position. That includes Congressman Ken Buck. Why is that?
I'm flabbergasted, and as I said yesterday, befuddled at someone that, like a Ken Buck or a Tom McClintock.
I'm sorry, Congressman. I missed some of what you said. Tell me about these Republicans again who are supporting Alejandro Mayorkas staying in the job. Sure.
No, I'm befuddled by some. I mean, I think it's. I heard Ken Buck, and I think also maybe I've heard Tom McClintock, both of who I would describe as pretty strong conservative voices. On this, they're just dead wrong. And I had a little mini debate with Tom McClintock, who I respect greatly. I just see him as misguided on this particular vote. And obviously disagree with them. I just wish they wouldn't vote at all. I would either vote present or just miss the vote. Say, I don't want to be a part of this process. I think it's, well, for whatever reason. So just don't be a part of the process. Don't vote with the Democrats. It's sad.
So from where you're sitting.
Yeah, Vince, sorry. We can afford to lose 2. But the problem is, like, Steve Scalise is battling cancer. He's not here. And there's another fella, Nick Langworthy, great guy. His father literally just had a stroke 4 hours ago when he's, hustling home to be with his dad. So those kinds of things come up. But the Democrats are missing a person or two here. So it's really going to be a question of who gets there to vote in the next hour, and what do some of these Republicans do? Do you vote no, or do you just not vote, or does somebody have a change of heart? It's literally going to be down to 1 or 2 people.
Right. And so let's talk about, first of all, if you were successful today in voting to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas, this would force a trial in the United States Senate, wouldn't it?
It goes to the Senate, and, unless there's some new evidence to convert these open border folks that are, in the Democratic Party, that most likely won't happen. But it still doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. And let me explain why. We need to get as much attention on this, not even crisis anymore, cataclysm. So continue to have people talking about it, and it's working because now over 70% of the American people do think the border isn't secure, and they feel it's dangerous. And it's a very precarious cocktail when you allow hundreds of thousands and now millions of people into your country, and you don't know who they are. I know you get that. I know your listeners get that. Unfortunately, the Democratic Party, at least the vast majority of them, don't understand that.
Right. And as far as Mayorkas is concerned, this is the primary purpose of his entire job. He's supposed to maintain the sovereignty of the United States as the head of Homeland Security. He has betrayed us. You compared him earlier to Benedict Arnold. And that comparison is appropriate because he's allowing a foreign invasion to break through into our country, in fact, aiding and abetting it with our money.
Well, I do think he's a bum. And that's why I said I actually called him a bum on the House floor, because you testify under oath in front of Congress and you say that the border is no less secure than it has been in past administrations. That is a bold-faced lie. And in my remarks, I showed that with just a few 4 or 5 quick examples that it's not, when we were talking about $1.5 million was kind of the baseline for a 3-year period to encounter illegally, and you had 8.3 million, that's not the same, my friend. I don't know, maybe he's extraordinarily bad at math, but it's not. And Chinese nationals have exploded, opioid deaths, the cartels are making record profits. Another thing is migrant deaths are at historic highs. Funny how the Democrats never talk about that either, because when the drug cartels are running this kind of operation, life has a price and life is expendable.
Lately, Joe Biden has been referring to the situation on the border as a crisis. The White House has changed positions on this because they believe they can pin blame for it on Donald Trump now and Republicans broadly. I want to play for you a question that was asked of Karinge Jean-Pierre involving Alejandro Mayorkas' testimony before Congress today. Take a listen.
President Biden said today that the immigration system has been broken and that he intends to drive home the message that, quote, the only reason the border is not secure is Donald Trump and his MAGA Republican friends. Secretary Mayorkas repeatedly said that the border is secure, and that's one of the reasons House Republicans are trying to impeach him. Did President Biden just confirm that Mayorkas gave Congress false information when he said that the border was secure?
I actually want to go back to your question. It's a ridiculous premise and a ridiculous statement that was made about this administration. So I just want to be very yes, I just want to be very, very clear. It's just ridiculous.
A bitter answer from a woman who is obviously caught here, a congressman, but this goes right to the center of your impeachment effort today.
When you go to the border, I would encourage anybody to go to the border and you talk to Border Patrol agents, the chiefs of the sectors and all of the brass and the Customs and Border Protection, and they will tell you, if the president did one thing, just one thing, which was the Wait in Mexico policy, if he reinstituted that, he has the authority to do that. He doesn't need Congress to do it. Then the border numbers we're seeing will collapse by 70% within a week. And he refuses to do that. He can't blame us. He can't blame Republicans. He can only blame himself.
Yeah.
Now, he'll use an excuse because he's done this privately. I just talked to one of my colleagues who talked to Biden in the White House, and he said, I can't reinstitute Wait in Mexico. Mexico won't go for it. Well, shucks. And I'm thinking of another word to say there, Vince. Shucks. You can, because President Trump did it. So was it because he was projecting strength and the fact that we have more leverage over Mexico than they could ever dream to have over us? They can't survive. Their economy will collapse if we shut the border down for any amount of time.
Well, wait a second. But even that explanation falls apart because, like, the idea that this current legislation would allow Biden to, quote unquote, close the border down, that would impose the burden of the humanity that's trying to cross it on Mexico anyway. So is he saying that Mexico is agreeing to help us in the event that we pass this new legislation?
No, he's just talking out both sides of his mouth, and I don't think the right side knows what the left side's saying. I don't think his brain cells are connecting anymore. The neurons aren't firing because it makes no utter sense. How in the world do you blame? They blame MAGA Republicans and Donald Trump for everything. They blame him for this. Then how is it? Riddle me this. Look at the numbers when he was president for 4 years. Why didn't he have these issues? Why did it suddenly happen after January 20th of 2021? They blame everything on Donald Trump. They blame the Ukrainian war on Donald Trump. Guess what? Putin didn't do anything for the 4 years that President Trump was in office. President Trump kept them in check.
Yes.
Joe Biden didn't. It's really, they're rewriting history. And by the way, just to your point, that is the theme of the Democrats all day today was extremist MAGA Republicans, this is their fault. Because that's what they have to message because they've seen the polling that they're losing 70-30 on the border.
Yes.
And everybody that has a brain cell knows that it is a crisis and a cataclysm. So who's to blame? So now they're trying to point the fingers.
Yeah, they want to transfer liability to the opposing party,
exactly.
Which is just crazy. But they're aided and abetted by a corporate news media that willingly carries their water with joy, or whatever you call the animating emotion that goes into their efforts. But they're definitely doing that. We're seeing it all across the press. Oh, why wouldn't Republicans go for this? It's bipartisan. It's common sense. And so this is, for some reason, a number of Republicans in the Senate went along with this scheme to allow Biden to try and establish this talking point that it's actually Trump's fault that the border's open.
So, yeah, because it doesn't make it's not logical to assume that a president and a Homeland Security secretary who are already ignoring existing laws, the way to fix this is to pass another law that they can ignore, because it says in the law that they can ignore it. Here's one. Let me just read this one sentence. If the president finds that this is in the national interest to temporarily suspend the Border Emergency Authority, the president may direct the secretary to suspend use of the Border Emergency Authority on an emergency basis. So for any reason, if he just says, oh, this is an emergency, I can just suspend the entire bill that you just passed into law. I don't trust you already.
And we know what that looks like. He's already suspended border enforcement, so we know exactly what that looks like.
Precisely. That's why, yes, I get the fact that we're in divided government, Vince, and we're not going to get everything we want, and that does take compromise. But when you have compromise, that means you get some benefit, not no benefit. You get some. Some benefit would be reinstitute Wait in Mexico, put it into law. The president must do this, and the president signs the bill. The Senate passes it, the House passes, then it's law. Then he must do it. But they won't do that because they want to have this wiggle room, and it's full of Swiss cheese loopholes.
So, okay, so project forward. You were telling me that it's going to be a very close vote within an hour from now or so on whether or not the House does actually impeach Mayorkas, the product of a very small margin for Republicans. A couple of Republicans, at least two, have indicated opposition to impeaching Mayorkas, and, of course, others who are absent for, in one case, an emergency in the family. So do you actually have a sense right now what the whip count is? Like, or is it really that live of a situation that we don't know how it's going to end up an hour from now?
Yeah, no, it's that tight. Yeah, it's one or I wouldn't be surprised if we win by 1 or lose by 3, something like that. It's that tight.
It's that tight. Okay.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah.
All right, so we'll look forward to it. Also, the politics of all this. Don't you think it's a little weird that they haven't ushered Mayorkas off to retirement by now? Like, this is obviously a huge political liability for them. They could have done this months ago. But it's almost like they just keep him in place as a giant middle finger to the country and certainly to the Republicans in Congress who are trying to hold him accountable.
Yeah, you're right. And like Obama's own Homeland Security Director or Homeland Security Secretary, Jay Johnson, was saying like 1,000 a day illegal crossers was busting us at the seams. And that was putting us at really maximum density. And now they want to normalize 5,000 in this quote unquote bipartisan bill. I don't know what happens to those senators when they get over there. I think it might be the powder in their wigs, when they go over there and they speak with their British accents and such, then they're in the upper chamber. It might seep in and make their brain foggy.
Yeah, I think it also depends a lot on which lobbyists are powdering their wigs. I think that's part of it too. Hey, Congressman Pat Fallon, thank you again for the breaking news update here. We'll keep our eyes tuned and ears tuned to what's going on today in Congress. But a very close vote ahead on whether or not Alejandro Mayorkas gets impeached. It should be overwhelming, but unfortunately it's close. Congressman, thank you very much, sir.